see this. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Karthik.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we have some enhancements around probes that I think in our previous call we did go through the concept of probes and how they're used, etc. So there have been some enhancements that are made since then, which Shubham has been working on, which we will soon make upstream. And we'll just take a sneak peek into those enhancements. There is a full CRUD operations supported on K8s probes. Not only can you list Kubernetes resources based on filters, but you can also create them or delete them as part of the probes. And then there's the concept of probe chaining, which is about defining complex conditions as part of the experiment entry and exit checks, where you might want to reuse the result of one probe as the input for another. This is what we are calling as probe chaining. We are defining a probe artifact associated with each probe to hold the information that's relevant for propagating into other probes. We'll just take a look into it. Mostly the CRUD is, I think, going to be a demo, Shubham, if I'm not wrong, and the probe chaining is more of a discussion around the schema. And I think in one of our calls, Suhrud had asked for events, additional events on the chaos results, which we can use in Grafana dashboards and in other tools, so as to be able to reflect the status of an experiment after it has completed, after the injection has completed, whether the experiment has passed or failed. That information is also something that you can show using events. So we just added a couple more events into the chaos results. We can probably quickly show that as part of the same demo as the CRUD operations on probes. And I think Ishan has a couple of updates on dashboards. There were some enhancements to the dashboard in terms of adding annotations and restructuring the directories structure for holding these dashboards. And since today is October 1st, this is the time of the year when Oktoberfest takes place. So we have got some PRs flowing into Litmus already. So from an observability standpoint, what can we do to get some contributions, and what are the issues that we can create for this? That's something we'll discuss here. And Shantanu has a interesting topic, a question around Google Cloud Ops and SLO API integration. So I'll probably like to start with this, Shantanu, if you're okay. Then the other ones, they are more of demos or continuations of what we've discussed earlier. I think this would be a good topic to start the discussion on.
Sure.
Cool. So would you like to elaborate about this?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, I think many of you might be aware of Google Cloud Stack Driver Service, which was currently renamed to Google Cloud Operations Service. So it is like a monitoring service which can be integrated with GKE, Google Cloud VMs, and everything running on Google Cloud. So yeah, when you have your Kubernetes clusters created by GKE, you can integrate your monitoring, logging, and everything for your services with Google Cloud Operations. And while I was reading a bit about these operations, Google Cloud Operations and Stack Driver, I saw that it also has an SLO API, Service Level Objective API, from where you can actually query or get the metrics from directly the service level in Kubernetes, and then maybe define your SLO statements and work out when your SLOs are getting breached and things like that. So what I was thinking is that since we are going to perform chaos experiments on GKE as well, then we might as well think about integrating the results or the SLO side of our chaos engineering experiments with Google Cloud's SLO API.
Okay, cool. That's an interesting topic. So when we say integrating with SLOs of Google Cloud API, are you saying that we add ourselves as a provider, a service level indicator provider for constructing the Google Cloud SLOs, or is it more like about some kind of metrics that we are adding, which can be some standard Prometheus metrics, which SLO API of Google can already consume?
Yeah, so, something like that. So I'm not really talking about being the provider for that, but since we are anyway collecting metrics for our chaos engineering experiments with chaos results, then we can also maybe think about uh, integrating it with the Google Cloud's SLO API so that when we run our chaos experiments on GKE, we can also see the results or the exported metrics and everything, yeah, with our SLO API in Stackdriver or Google Cloud Operations.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's a really good integration if we can have. And these SLO APIs of Google Cloud, is it something that is going to, is it something that is used as part of a deployment strategy? For example, does Google has a lot of inbuilt CI/CD tooling also. So do they use this API for, say, promoting an app from staging into production, or is it something like that? How do they use these SLO APIs as part of the GCO?
Okay, so I am fairly new to this SLO API, so I'm still going through the documentation of SLO APIs, Google Cloud. So there is a big documentation on this stuff, how to use SLO API and how to query it, how to get results from it, and everything. But the point of this SLO API is that let me just add a bit of Google Cloud Operation. So with Prometheus, we can have integration with Google Cloud Operations as well. So we can connect our Prometheus setup to Google Cloud Operations, and then we can also set up our SLO API with Google Cloud Operations. So there are a few possibilities here. So we can either directly use integrations with Google Cloud Operations and SLO API, or we can also integrate Prometheus and set up the SLO related metrics in SLO in Prometheus. Sorry.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, this is a really good. I think there is something very similar happening with the Captain integration. I think we touched upon it a little bit last call. Probably introduce you to the as well. So Captain is a framework which basically helps you to do continuous delivery. They have a concept of what do you call quality gates. And this is something that helps you to determine whether your application is meeting an SLO under stress. When we say under stress, basically under some chaotic conditions, you can say. And it looks something like this. I think this is probably going to be similar to the form of the SLO within the Google Cloud as well. Probably if we can see some, I think they have a good UI so sort of to construct it, looks like. But ultimately, I think the impact or the rule is going to be something like this. Maybe if you sort of put it in a spec form, you might have some objectives around specific metrics, and these specific metrics will have a pass and warning criteria, and then a total score, which is basically the threshold you can be defined to say whether it is successful or no. Based on this criteria, we will obtain a score, and that score can be mapped to a pass or fail. And the service level indicator is something that, like Shantanu mentioned, can be Prometheus, for example, or it can be anything else. If it is Prometheus, then you already have your metrics like this, which is coming from your service, and then you are applying some Prometheus functions over it to get the value, the SLI against which an SLO is constructed. So I'm seeing something of that sort here when they are defining the SLIs and SLOs, and they have a way to define that. So it would be very good for us to be able to do this. Prometheus is probably one of our good starting points because we are exposing some metrics. Chaos result metrics events can be translated into metrics, and we can use that, or the exporter metrics can be enhanced to directly fit in here. Or sometimes it can be not the litmus metrics, but it can be an application metric itself. But that application metric is being verified as part of your SLO check while the chaos is being done. So that integration seems to be really good to do. Thanks for bringing this up, Shantanu. I think this is the first time I'm hearing about Google Cloud Operations and the SLOs, so it was good to know about this. I think we will take a closer look at this. If you can come with any more information around this or any pre-prototype kind of thing, that would be awesome. We can probably discuss this as we go until we have some kind of a demo or a working prototype or some integration. We can sort of discuss this on and off during our calls as one of the items.
Okay.
We can do prototype of this. Cool. Would we like to take any AIs around this, Shantanu, or do we want to get some more insights about this? Probably we can go back and find out a little bit more, and then we can have one more discussion around what we can do as part of the prototype.
Yeah, I think I would need some time to maybe go a bit further into this topic, and then we can create action items.
Sure. Great. All right. Cool. Are there any questions, any thoughts around this in the room? Christine, do you have any ideas? Is there already some kind of SLO definition that you're following internally as part of your environments?
Yes. So yeah, we are actually following a particular SLO. It isn't. It actually hasn't been very high on the list of what we're doing to integrate SLO. In our case, it's not one of those things that we dislike, but it's not a high priority.
Okay.
So in our case, it's more or less what we're looking at is the reports of the experiments. This is where, but I don't. I'm not sure I'm ready to discuss that yet, because I would like more to have a more concrete problem than saying we're having problems with reports. That doesn't help anyone. So I was trying to put something there. I just didn't manage to finish it for this meeting. I'll see if I can do it for next week.
Sure. Yeah, that would work. So I'll just take a note around improvements to chaos reports. There are some efforts going on in terms of providing better reports, and I'm glad you sort of brought this up. I always fail with my Google formatting. Okay, so there is an issue which is there in the backlog of the Litmus issues. So there is chaos backlog milestone, which talks about one of the issues that is pushing out a result in the form of a JSON blob. For example, this is a very crude way of saying it, but each experiment has its own context. For example, when we run it in our environment versus someone runs it in their environment, they want very specific information passed into the result. They want specific context to be pushed into the result. You might have some performance values that you want to patch as part of your result, or you might want to have some resource states that you want to update, anything like that. So trying to create a generalized interface where you can push that information. And of late, what we're thinking is we probably, instead of putting this inside of a chaos result, and it can become quite messy, there is a thought that we are pushing a separate cloud event for that. I think there are a lot of interfaces or frameworks that are consuming cloud events. Cloud events is, I think, an incubating project in CNC, which is basically providing a standard specification, API, and structure for the event, which people can actually conform to and send that information that people can probably consume and show in other dashboards. That's one thought. And the other thought is have config maps that are basically having a data field like this, and then you can push in all your information. Then you can generate your own reports out of that. You can have a tool that is that's not really running on a cluster as is, not running in a pod that is, but you still have it as a binary that you can run past this particular config map as argument, and it generates a report of a said type. And also some integrations from Andreas, one of our community members who's working on doing some Greylog integration and Kafka integration, where reports or the chaos results as they are received today can be converted into Kafka topics and sent. So there is some activity going on, all in very early stages, pre-alpha. So there's nothing concrete, and the reporting is probably not that well defined today. So definitely warrants as many issues and opinions around this as possible. Litmus portal, I think Ajesh is also here, so it's worth mentioning that the Litmus portal, which is coming up, the UI that can help construct and run the workflows, will have an option to download reports, the workflow runs, that is the experiment runs, and whatever you have run as part of the workflow, the engine, one or more engines that are packaged as part of that workflow, that information is going to be stored in the portal's MongoDB to be precise, and that information can be extracted out into a report and made downloadable, for example. I think that's also one more thing that sort of comes under it. So you have chaos result, experiment specific, or user context specific data in result, or a config map. There can be cloud events that we can generate, and they can be tools that use the result to generate artifacts and push it out, maybe local storage or S3 or MinIO, for example. These are some of thoughts that we have, and portal will offer a downloadable report. So there are some thoughts around this. So we'll probably have to build upon that. So in our chaos observability repo, we did not have anything related to reporting. I think we only had things around metrics and logs, etc. I think reports probably should be another folder here, and we need to create some thoughts there. Awesome. I think that's food for thought. Thanks, Chris, for bringing it up. If there are no more questions or thoughts, we can go ahead with the demonstrations. I think Shubham can discuss the CRUD via probes. Stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah, so let me open this. We have introduced CRUD in the KTS probe, so we introduce this one, operations. So operation can be create, delete, present, absent. I will explain all four one by one. So we can define operation as create, and we can provide the data. For example, in my example, I'm providing a data for a PVC. I am creating PVC. So I provided all the data manifest of the PVC here in the data field, and operation is create. So it will, and we can also provide this GVR namespace and all. I mean, field select is not needed here. So we can provide GVR namespace and data here, and operation is create. So it will create this PVC. I mean, anything we can create based on the data. Then this second example is for the present. I mean, it will check the specified resource based on the field selector or label selector. The resource is present or not. We verified. So in my example, I'm using same PVC which I created. So I'm verifying that it is created or not. In the third example, the operation is delete. So we can provide the GVR value and the label selector or field selector. On the basis of it will extract the resource and it will delete it. And the fourth example is for the operations, where it is checking for the absent. So it will check the resource should be deleted. We can we can also same thing, field selector or label selector we can pass. On the basis of it, it will check. I will just Litmus is already installed and my application is already running. So I will just create my chaos engine. We can watch for the PVC here. We can verify. So it's running. I mean, first I set it first to probe in the SOT mode and other to probe in the EOT mode. I mean, deletion and absent thing. Meanwhile, we can also check for chaos result. In the beginning of experiment, we created this event. So awaited. I mean, awaited event. I mean, it marked all the probe in as awaited status. It is still done. Yes, I mean, it is completed. We can again check the chaos result. So all the probes are passed. Now it also created a pass or fail event based on the verdict. We can we can check here result pass.
Yeah, just so thanks, Shubham. Just to sort of interject for a second, I think the earlier picture or the earlier discussions around probes was, can I get this metric, or can I basically check this field, things like that. Why would someone want to create a Kubernetes resource as part of a probe? That sort of strikes the mind generally, right? Why are we creating resources? Are we not generally supposed to be checking for other metrics or other state, etc.? So we got an interesting requirement from one of the community members who said that, especially for chaos against some storage provisioners or some stateful applications, especially if you are dealing with CSI provisioners or external storage provisioners, you will sometimes have the need to find out whether they are functioning well when chaos is being injected on them. So these are all typically control plane components, state operators that people might have created maybe to manage storage, etc. When you create chaos against these components, you want to know whether their function is inhibited or whether they're able to successfully carry out, whether they have HA built in into the control plane. One way to do that is to actually create some resources. In this case, it is a PV. I think that's why we sort of took the example of a PV, but it can be something else as well. So you want to be able to find out if the control plane is working fine. And if it's not, for example, it was not able to create that particular resource in the first shot, then how quickly does it require to go ahead and do those creations, so create those resources? So this is something that we can check against, which is why the creation of a resource is also something that we are terming or sort of brought under the purview of the K8s Pro. So I just wanted to sound that out. And we have an extra event, as you might have noticed on the chaos result. So that will also be available as a metric. So in case you're depending upon the Heptio event router to sort of add some interesting annotations on Grafana or try to create some gauge panels talking about the total passed or total failed runs, you can directly get it from the same source. You can get it extracted from the chaos result. So that was one of the things. And Shubham, would you be able to just show the schema, example schema for the probe chaining?
Yeah, yes.
If you have that handy.
Yeah, this is the example.
Yeah, so if you notice here in the probe command 2, if you can just highlight that, there is a representation of an artifact that is sort of obtained from the probe 1. So each probe is now going to contain a property called register, and that's going to hold the information of whatever you might have extracted out from that probe. Suppose you want to get some information from a previous probe, pass it as input for the next probe to see the values, for example. You can do that. Mostly applicable for command probes, but they can be used in other probes as well. So this is what this helps you to do is it helps help you to create complex chaos scenarios where you can put your desired entry exit checks without having to maintain separate experiments for it. You don't have to burn this into experiment spec, create a new experiment, burn this into the experiment image, create a new experiment CR, and do that. You can do that right from here. So it's trying to declaratively specify your steady state, but the process of defining that steady state declaratively may involve some imperative commands like this. The kubectl run operations, get parts, etc., or it might be purely declarative in the case of a HTTP probe, or in the case of a K8s probe where you just mention the fields. You don't really write commands like this. It's a mix of both. Just trialing with this in the community to see how things sort of how it is accepted. So yeah, that was what. Thanks, Shanu, for showing this. Are there any questions around probes or any thoughts? Okay, if there are none, the next question, next topic of discussion is an update from Ishan. I think we had a demo from him in one of our earlier SIG calls about how you can overlay chaos metrics on app dashboards. I think there has been some enhancements made to those dashboards and also some directory structure changes based on what we have discussed earlier. Sean, do you want to share that info?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. So like we have the PRs and it has been reviewed. Some minor changes are required and it will be merged, but I can show the current updates or like which will go in. So this will be the structure of a Litmus monitoring directory. So here we earlier had just the Grafana dashboard and the screenshots and the basic README, like which provided just like if you go in, so it will give you the link to download the dashboard. So that is nothing but this JSON file itself. So and it will show you the steps. So these all we had, and what changes and yeah, like this PR was also like merged after the previous meet. So we have this in the main repo now. So what enhancements have been done is like all the dashboards are there in one place and categorized on different like based on their types. And the major enhancement is like the utils folder wasn't there previously. So what has been done is like we have the utils folder in place, which will help you set up this entire monitoring structure infrastructure, which is needed to like like get the metrics and overlay them and all. So in the last demo, I used my own repo. So now this all these changes will be there in the main repo itself. So what we have is like uh, we have the instructions on the top, so these were already there. We have added a small demo just how you can set up this kind of this I mean this entire monitoring infrastructure on your own system or own cluster. So this is the like these are the steps involved. So you can set up your own microservices application. For the demo we have used sockshop, and then you can set up the litmus chaos infrastructure, and then you can set up. So these were in the last demo, so then this is just the repeat of that. So you have the setup, so you have the step to set up the whole monitoring infrastructure here, and then execute the chaos experiments and get the result. So the directory currently has this util folder now, so that you don't need to go into a demo folder. You can just come to a monitoring folder and get all the things required in order to like set up your own monitoring infrastructure. So and you have all the utilities, and also with the basic readme which describes and from which components you can select from. If you want an alert manager, you can just deploy it or you can skip it. And like that we have different types of I mean the different components have been segregated in different folders. And so in currently we have under sample application with service monitors just sockshop, but we are planning to add more. And we have this like metrics exporters with service monitors. So these have three types of metrics now. So these are like cube state metrics, node exporter metrics, and litmus metrics. Litmus metrics inside has this chaos exporter metrics and the event router. So these are two separate metrics. Like this can give you gauge type of metrics, and these are the events. So we have everything in under one repo, so that just you can use the README and set up everything for yourself, and then you can tweak in this one, or you can change it according to your own application. The first step, and also you have to change at some places where you use the labels. So this was the basic directory structure change that will go in to the monitoring repo folder in the main repo. Along with this, there has been some additions, like we have enhanced the dashboard to like include some annotations which were not previously there. So advantage of adding annotations are like this is handy, and like it shows you the labels in place and along with the time of events, which is not as you can see, like it is not available in the red markers which are there, but available in the yellow markers. So these annotations have those events. And one more thing, you need to define annotation just once, and it can be added to all the panels. So you can just add in from the dashboard settings, and it will get added to all the panels at one go. You don't need to define for each one of them. So and so this was, and so other than that, the dashboard is similar, but it has now all as we know that we have shifted from the model which we were using of configuring the target, configuring the Prometheus for targets, and the scrape jobs have been changed to service monitor selectors. So we have this change. And then so this was the enhancement on the graph side. And there's a small uh, I have made a documentation out of it, so that anyone who wants to contribute or who wants to maybe enhance or change anything there, so he can take he can take this doc as a reference and just make the changes. So this is just a basic description of the why monitoring is important for chaos. And then Litmus Chaos plugins for monitoring, it has the descriptions of our two chaos exporter and Litmus event router. And then how you can, so this doc here described or is a uh, not just a readme, but it has the all the steps which you will require to get the monitoring up with Litmus. So so you need to clone the Litmus repo and then switch to the monitoring folder, switch to the utils, then create your monitoring namespace, then you have to create the operator to instantiate all CRDs, and so this is done. Then you can deploy native KTS and AUT and Litmus monitoring components. So like as I said, these are the directory structure. These changes have will be going in from this PR, and this is the doc for the same. So it will apply, it will create all the resources in your monitoring folder, monitoring namespace. So this three will be created there. And the we have kept the service monitors as SRE would prefer, like to have a service monitor in his own maybe deployment namespace. So we have kept it in the sock shop for the demo too, and we have the Litmus service monitors in the Litmus namespace only.
So Ishan, one thing of particular interest in the doc is not only are we showing how you can set up monitoring for sock shop and what is the directory structure and etc. Also providing a template for people to do it for other apps. I think this doc, if I'm not wrong, also saw a section around how you can instrument the dashboard itself.
Yeah, it is there. Like this doc has it all. So it is like currently it so these are there, how you can, what components do you exactly need to set it up. So deploy this Prometheus, this one, and apply the Grafana manifest. And so this part is there in the README too. So you have the setup. So it is just for the first time users, for Litmus docs, it will be going into the docs itself. So it has all the things required. So you can set up the data source and import the dashboard. Then from here, what we have is unique to this particular doc.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah. So here you have how you can interleave chaos events with existing application metric graphs. So you have, consider you have your own graph for your application ready, and it is already, you have already your Grafana setup and Prometheus for those. So these above steps will just help you set up all the monitoring infrastructure and push your data, let Prometheus to pull your data, or I mean monitor the service monitors, or to using the selectors, or you can just configure the targets. So after that, you have to make some changes to Grafana. So these are the changes. You can query, you can use the same query in your Prometheus query editor. And also so this query itself, I have separated out the query. So this particular query you need to write to get the the particular chaos, this is for the chaos engine name label selector. So this particular query you need to write to get the chaos event. So this is not just this doesn't just add one event. So what it does, it takes in two events. So we can see here. So in this query itself, we have the first reason as chaos engine initialized. So this will take the data where the time when the chaos engine is initialized, and then it is a operation on chaos engine completed. So chaos engine completed is the second reason which we are choosing. So from there to the chaos engine, from initialization to the end, we get all the particular, all the reference time, timelines, the time, you mean I mean the time, Unix time. So it takes that, and it is just a grouping of them. So it groups them, and then it forms a vector, so that it now it gives you all the with all the events, like between happening all the not exactly all the events. It will just give you a vector which will be from the starting time to the end time, depending on the reasons which you just depending on the reasons which you just mentioned. So from initialization to end. So this is the main query which will be used. Now this query itself can be added to your dashboards in at two places. So one was this advanced, this particular change that we brought in recently. So you are using the query in the expression of the annotations itself. So Grafana gives you a settings option. So on the top of dashboard here, you can just get all the settings of this particular dashboard. So from there you can just so from there you can just add this particular query to the expression. So you can get the UI for that, and just you need to enter the query and select some options which you have, and you all the events which you are seeing in this yellow markers will be up. So like you have the annotations now for your graph, but you also see the red lines there. So that for that red lines, so these annotations also are taking the same query. So that means uh, the event, like the vector of the time are like from the start and to the end. So this same query I have also used, I have used a like chaos inject reason, but because
Yeah,
here
sorry.
yeah. Hello.
Sorry to interrupt, Ishan. I think the idea is one of the reasons why we sort of thought of adding annotation is
Yeah.
sometimes your injection can happen in iterations. You during the course of one experiment, you might inject a particular kill multiple times and keep doing the chaos checks against it at each iteration. So you have a particular time of starting the experiment, but the period of injection and when it ends can tend to be slightly different. So you want to sort of highlight when you started the experiment with all the extra checks that you're doing, and then only also know only the period when the injection has happened. So I think, like Ishan is showing here,
Yeah.
you can make annotations with one, and then you can sort of put the other one also as annotations, or maybe as a y-axis with a value which you can keep tracking,
Yeah.
sort of get a more complete picture. I think this combined with the result events that are coming with the reasons for verdict, I think you should get a fairly informative dashboard for your app.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So we can customize, like here I've used chaos engine initialize as the reason, and here I've used inject. So as I said, like as Karthik said, so like here we have the two, the difference between the two is visible. So we have this starting and ending at different times. So because we are with these first one is with the checks and all, like when it started actually, and when the actual experiment starts. So these are the different. And yeah, one thing, as you notice, this yellow lines are like present everywhere, but this red ones you need to add to each particular panel. So when you edit the panel, you can add just another query, and you can give in this configuration, or you can the query will be this. So or you can use the same from here, and you can use either one of them. So you can add the query there, and this is the exact same query, just with the difference in the reason. And one more thing about these queries, like here we can always see there's an involved object name. So this involved object name is your engine name which you are using for the like, because you're using the involved object kind selector, so you have to give the name also for that. And namespace must be also the one which you are using, and under on which the chaos engine is getting created. So you have this particular selectors you have to tune according to your configuration. So I've added that. In the step itself, we have specified you can tune the labels. So and then the second type of metrics is the gauge metrics, which were already like coming from the chaos engine experiment count. So this is coming from the chaos exporter which we have. It is exporting the gauge type of metrics. So this gauge type of metrics can be like visualized in sort of this gauges, and it has the total experiment runs, past experiments, failed experiments, and queue. Also, you can customize them to to obtain some percentage values, or maybe do some complex calculations on basis of them. So so we have this two kind of metrics currently, and then we have observe. So this is the dashboard I've included in the doc itself, for the user to just have a view of what is about to, or what he can get achieve by this following the steps. And also we I'm you can suggest if any changes is required, or you want some more information about how to configure this.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of Grafana tricks, and I think that we have a lot of expertise within this team. Christine and Shantanu, I think will have a lot of other useful representations that you can have for a chaos experiment. And this is just a starter of what we have right now. So please feel free to drop in comments on what would be a good graph to show. This is useful, but there may be a lot of other things that you might have in your mind. We could probably add them as examples and create docs around it like this, how you can construct those queries. I also think it might be worthwhile to have some kind of a query constructor tool or something like that, or a web page. I'm just fantasizing, where you put your chaos engine namespace and chaos engine name, and you automatically end up with the queries that you can take and put into your annotations. All right, so instead of them having to edit things, etc., we can simplify that further for users. And once we have more ideas around what kind of dashboards are useful, we can enhance that query constructor to sort of spit out all those kind of queries which people can embed into their dashboards. All right. Thanks, Ishan.
Yeah,
That was a detailed update.
This was really nice. Very nice presentation. Thank you. I loved it.
You.
I just had one question regarding the documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that the process of setting up monitoring stack was mentioned in the documentation, which is good for beginners or those who are trying Litmus and everything on a new cluster. But normally what happens is that when you get started with chaos engineering, the prerequisite is to have already set up monitoring stack.
Right.
So is this scenario covered in the documentation somewhere?
Yeah, I think the documentation today is more running like an instruction manual on what all we can update, what all we can install, but we should definitely have those pointers where people with existing application stacks, how they can reuse this. Mostly we will have information for them for existing Prometheus-based setups. But it's a very good point. People might be using Datadog or Dynatrace or a lot of other things. So we should have some documentation coming up around how you can consume Litmus metrics, either the event-based metrics or the ones coming from the exporter, into those dashboards. For Prometheus, yes, we could add that. I think, Ishan, that's an interesting one to add. How we would add the service monitors for a Heptio event router, or how we would construct a service monitor for events, and how we would construct for the exporter, or how we would add a scrape job inside of a existing Prometheus config map. These are some things also I think that we should document for people who already have things running. I know we have them as manifests which people can install. We have that step today, but just like how we are telling you can construct your query like this, we can say you can construct your service monitor of this type for our event exporter and chaos exporter. And maybe that's also something we can add into the documentation. That's a good point, Shantanu. I think we should add that.
Sure.
I'm just noting that down in our agenda. I'm just saying that add pointers for existing Prometheus-based stack. Great. We have about 7 minutes left, and we have one more agenda item from Raj. So it is Hacktoberfest. So any thoughts, any feedback around what can be good contributions into observability? Probably you can sound out your thoughts. Meanwhile, what Raj will do, I think, is he has come up with some contribution guide. You can maybe just run us through that so that we can get it into our repo before we hit the business end of the Hacktoberfest. Just started today. Raj, would you like to go over that?
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. Yeah, so I'll take over from here. So, hi guys. So today's the Hacktoberfest. So it will be a whole month, but today is the first day. So we have seen like we didn't get a lot of contribution to our chaos observability repos. So the thought was like to have a good contribution guide can help the newbies and other guys who already have contributed to other observability like Prometheus and other stuff, so they can also contribute to the chaos observability. So I have prepared a guide which is still in progress. So I'll be sharing my screen to show you the guide. So this is something I picked from other repos, other projects, and like do some modification to the points. So like there's two way, like one is who is already a contributor, he can follow this step, and who is a new contributor, he can follow the development guide. So I'll go through those points later. So the second point is like we have seen like there's too much redundant issues we have in our Litmus. So the point is like before creating a new issue, you can search those keywords in the issue section, and you can filter it out using some labels like observability, chaos exporter, SIG observability, Prometheus, like this kind of keywords in the labels, so that so that we didn't get in redundant issues. And like the third point is like some users, like some user or some community member ask for something like which is not in the roadmap, or which is out of the scope of the project. So like those things can be discussed through Slacks and with the SIG chairs and leads to get it like confirmed, and then they can create an issue, or they can create an issue, then we can discuss. So this is the point. And like adding in large new feature and component to chaos observability should be done by creating issues. So it is like if you are raising a PR, then first you have to create an issue, then raise a PR. First issue, then PR. That is one way. So these are some existing point. So for the existing developers, not for the new developer. For the new developers also, and these are the repositories. I think we have added few Grafana dashboard to the Litmus also. I think we can add this point. Litmus. Okay. So these are the repository, if I'm not wrong, right, Karthik? So Chaos exporter is the Prometheus exporter of Litmus. So this is the Go code, and this Chaos observability repo have some events dashboard and logs dashboard, and you can configure it. Just a, I think sorry. So this is the repo. I think Chaos observability. It is not been maintained. Okay. So the other thing is the shock shop Litmus demo. So where we have some Grafana and Chaos dashboards, and we can have a Litmus the Litmus dashboards are in the Litmus repositories. Okay, so these are the process you have to do before raising a PR. Like keep your PR as small as possible. So I've seen a lot of big PRs coming, so it is very difficult for the maintainer to review the PR. So it is good to have the PR as small as possible. So these are some of the things like DCO, and the last 2 points are like for reviewing a PR which have the Grafana config changes, so it is very difficult to review because we don't know what effect it will do in the Grafana dashboards. So it is better to put the screenshots or a like if you have the endpoints, running endpoints, so you can paste the running endpoints so that the reviewer can go to that endpoints and see the changes. Okay, so the next is the development guide. I only mentioned the development guide for the chaos exporter. So it is just a go kind of thing, go run the binaries, and other things are like observability. So it is like you have to run Prometheus first, then apply the event router, then you can have the metrics, other dashboard metrics. So this is still in progress, so it will good if you guys can add something to this doc. I'll be sharing this doc here.
Cool. Thanks for sharing this, Raj. I think it's a good one to be converted into a PR. I think we can, the SIG observability folks are all on our GitHub team. So we can add for review and sort of take it from there and probably close it in the next few days.
Okay, great. So any questions? It's still in progress, so you can, I think I'll give the edit access so that or comment access so that you can give a comment so you don't edit or something like that. Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thanks. I think we're on time. Thanks for sharing the contrib guidelines, Raj. Like you mentioned, we can discuss more on the PR. Any concluding thoughts? Any questions? Anything we would like to discuss in subsequent? If you have any agenda items that you want to discuss about in the next call, then please go ahead and add that into the doc. Or any questions you have had on the current Grace presentations, please feel free to reach out either on the doc or on Slack or via issues. It was good learning today, a lot of new stuff to look at. And thanks for joining, everyone, and have a great Friday and the weekend.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.